Our guests today have a phenomenal passion for reaching Muslims, which may be surprising when you hear that when he was a kid, our guest was bullied by Arab Muslims. So, what happened? What caused the transformation? And what is he doing for the glory of God and for the sake of the gospel?
Hello and welcome to another episode of To the Ends of the Earth, a CMML podcast. My name's Aaron Fullen.
And I am Joel Hernandez, and we have a special episode for you today. We're sitting here with Kevin and Amy Schiltz, who serve in the Chicago area along with their children. And they were sent to the work of the Lord by Lombard Gospel Chapel. And we are very glad to welcome them today.
Thank you.
Welcome. We always want to start off by hearing a little bit about you. So both of you, we'd love to hear how you were raised, where you grew up, how you met, how you started this ministry.
Well, I grew up in Southern California, in San Diego, and my parents were not Christians when they got married. And my mom actually came to know the Lord when I was about 5 years old, started taking us to a sort of a, questionable theology church, but was reading her Bible frequently and started actually taking us to a evangelical church where she actually still is to this day. And
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of male role models who were believers. And as the high school years went on, I stopped being so interested in going to church and reading. But I did have a Bible as a kid that I used to love to pore over. And I took it with me to college, not realizing what a profound effect that kid's Bible was going to have on my life. I went to college with the desire to go off on my own and experience the world. And it was a throwing myself fully into everything that a big state school offers in terms of pleasure, worldly pleasures, and hedonistic lifestyle. And it was really, really actually unsatisfying. It was a total lie that the college life was going to be this great exploration of self and pleasures in the world. And I remember one time on my way to go pick up an assignment from a classmate who lived down the street. It was a very cold night. I remember thinking in my heart, it's a cold night, but I feel my soul is dead. And I didn't know what to do to fix myself.
But your mom would call.
My mom would call, and she would call and say, I know what your lifestyle is like. I'm praying for you. She would even sometimes very pointedly say, you need to come back to God.
Okay.
And you need to give your life to Jesus again.
Wow.
It wasn't until the very end of the semester, I was doing very poorly on exams. I could not focus. I was frequently using marijuana and had a whole bunch of friends that really had this huge explosion of fighting among my friends and roommates. And then one morning I woke up and my basement had flooded. There was a snowstorm, like a snap snowstorm, and then it melted the next day. So all this water came into my basement. Like it was a symbol of my flood that came in, destroyed the carpet on my floor and a lot of my stuff, and it just brought me literally to a point where I said, I can't keep trying so hard. I'm dead, and I'm not able to fix this on my own.
So the flood was a symbol of what was going on inside.
Yeah, I just collapsed. I literally collapsed on the floor and just cried out to God for help. I need you. I'm tired of running. I can't do this anymore. And it was this heap of being on the floor, and he found me. It was this almost a moment of, this is how much I love you. Look at the cross. And in that moment, it all made sense. This is the gospel. It's not picking myself up. It's look what he's done for you.
You had tried,
I
tried,
just
and
tried
now you
like
were letting go.
some little efforts of like, I should go to church. I should read a Bible. It
Yep.
just fizzled
Hmm.
until I realized that's not what this is about. This is not just brush yourself off and be good. He rescued me from this pit, this in my basement, almost a literal pit, and said, I want you to follow me.
And then you found your little Bible.
And I found that kid's Bible I still had on my shelf.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I started reading it, just couldn't put it down, and said, "This is what my life needs to be about Jesus."
What a story.
So, yeah.
What a start to your life.
Yeah.
Amy, where were you when all of this was going on in
Not in Colorado.
Right.
Not in Colorado.
I grew up in Turkey, but in high school I went to Black Forest Academy
In Germany.
in Germany for boarding school. It's just my junior and senior year of high school. I think it was in like age 16 that I kind of felt like I can't do anything to fix my own sin. Like really, really understood. Like I can't like atone for myself. And yeah, it's a very specific moment of feeling like there's doesn't matter what I do or how grateful even I am. There's nothing that does that adds. It's all Christ.
And what's interesting is there is overlap in what you both just said about you both came to a point where like,
Yeah.
it's not me. I can't do this.
I can't do this on
Right.
my own.
Right. And that's a prerequisite for realizing I need a savior. And thankful that we all have that in common. So how did you meet? How did your paths of it? Like you're in Turkey, you're in Colorado. When did you meet each other?
We met. I did college in the States and then worked as a graphic designer in the Wheaton, Chicagoland area
Oh, okay.
for 4 or 5 years. And I think I did not have a heart for Muslims or for Turkish people of my own until moving to the States and actually met
Interesting.
Turks who were not believers in the Chicago area. Because overseas as missionary kids, sometimes your circle can be only believers, even if they're Muslims from, or Christians from a Muslim background.
Yeah.
So my heart started growing as I worked full-time as a designer, meeting Turkish immigrants in Chicagoland. And that's kind of, you can explain.
And right after college, I'd actually joined with a small organization doing outreach to Muslim college students on our campus. And the boss, Lebanese, encouraged my partner and I in my internship to actually go to Lebanon for about a semester or two.
To visit.
To see what was going on
Meet
there.
missionaries.
To get a feel of the Muslim world in a way.
And what were your thoughts toward Muslims at the time? Your temperature?
I had actually 2 coworkers right in between going to the Middle East and then that story that I just shared about coming to know the Lord. I continued to work at Olive Garden. I had 2 Muslim coworkers that I became friends with and was kind of surprised by the friendliness and the it sounds funny now,
But your earliest memory was an unfriendly
that's right
situation, probably.
You had a negative experience at some point?
I did. When I was in 3rd grade, I think it was, I was bullied by two Arab kids that were both verbally, and then even one of them, like, who's a big guy. We got into some schoolyard fights. He pushed me on the ground. He pulled a little pocket knife on me.
Wow.
And I told my teacher, and she's like, yeah, like I'll talk to him.
Get over it, kid.
But it did leave kind of an impression on me, like, and then of course coming of age, it's the September 11th generation. It was like all my friends were like, we got to join the military and we got to fight those guys, and those are all the bad guys.
Negative impression toward Muslims.
So when I then was working and had these 2 very sweet, a girl and a guy, sweet young people that we were always joking and having fun, and like even I invited the one guy, is an Arab guy, to go on a bike ride together. We went on a mountain bike ride together. We had a blast. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, like they have no concept of what I have just been like enjoying for the last year of my life. I love the Lord Jesus, and they have no awareness or knowledge of him, just like kind of brush him off as a prophet. You don't need to worship him. And but yeah, all that to say, we're going over in the Middle East and actually becoming friends with all these students who were from all over all over the Muslim world, but also from the whole spread of Lebanon. So Sunni, Shia, this super secular, super religious, all kinds of different types of people
In Lebanon.
in Lebanon. And what I thought was a semester ended up turning into almost 3 years of being there. But I was going to join a new team and officially join OM, and that's actually how we met, was
Atlanta, Georgia,
joining
OM
at
headquarters.
their organizational headquarters, the conference for new people all going out.
Okay.
And we noticed that there weren't all that many people interested in the Muslim world. So
Yeah, it was just us. And maybe another.
Maybe one or
So it was an
one or
obvious
two
choice.
others. And we
Yeah.
were like later 20s.
So, okay, so your ministry was mainly focused on Muslims. How did you become passionate about sharing your faith specifically to Muslims?
yeah, I remember getting to meet all kinds of different people when I lived in Lebanon. And from very wealthy, like the elite in the society, all the way to the literalist street kids that shined shoes and sold drugs and even prostituted themselves, like just
boys.
boys in these miserable situations. They were all Muslim, and yet the guys that would hang out at the malls and were very wealthy and elite would share aspects or share the gospel with them, and there was just like, okay, good for you. But sometimes the lowest of the low would have this instant like hunger for something more. They would have this longing, like, what are you talking about? I have to know more of this. Even had these young guys come to my partner and I had a apartment very close to where they'd hang out, kind of on the boardwalk of the coast. They'd come over late at night, 2 a.m, sometimes knock on our door with their packs of cigarettes, and they'd say, like, we want to read Bible stories with you guys. She's like,
What?
this is strange,
Wow.
but this is amazing. And if they are hungry, if they're the kind of people that God is drawing to, I want my life to be about that, about what they're so hungry for.
Yeah.
And everywhere I went, just on like, Islam is not producing anything good in these people's lives. These are my friends now, but they are lost. They talk about, they're terrified all the time of hell. They're terrified of being dishonored. They're terrified. Their lives are full of fear.
Fear.
And often some are very content in just, my father is a Muslim, his father is a Muslim, and yeah, like they're just content in that. And then others, you'd have these conversations, hours, days, weeks of conversations, and there was a spark, an interest, something that what you're talking about is so different. I want that.
Yeah.
And the burden actually was gradual on me too. But I remember at one point in my first few couple of years in the Middle East, it's like, if this is who God is drawing to himself, I want to be a part of that. I want to see more of that. I want my life to have significance. And I think that this is a way that he's leading me in that.
You wanted to invest your life in what God was doing, drawing these people to himself. Wow.
And they literally came to your door at 2 a.m.
Sometimes they did.
to hear what you had to say.
Does your church pray for missionaries? Do you wish you could get to know them better without the extra effort of organizing their visit? We have a great resource for you. It's called the Missions Update Video. Each video provides a snapshot of one of our missionaries, footage of the work they do, and a list of items for prayer. These are short videos, under 5 minutes each, and easily accessible through YouTube. Each month, we add a new Missions Update video to our growing collection. Step up your prayer meetings by featuring a Missions Update video. You can pair these videos with our Missionary Prayer Handbook to get a fuller picture of CMML missionaries and the work they do. To subscribe, go to cmml.us/podcast and tap on Missions Update Videos.
Okay, so you eventually moved from overseas to Chicago. What sparked that decision?
We were 6 years in Jordan, or 7, married. 3 of our kids lived there or were born there. And COVID, actually not COVID. It was right as all the lockdowns happened in March of 2020. Kevin got accepted to Wheaton College to study for a year
Okay.
and full scholarship. And so we just saw the Lord's hand in, like, okay, for 1 year, he had studied biology, wanted to have some kind of deeper Bible background. So we ended up in the Chicagoland area in Wheaton, and did not go back because we had our 4th child, and he had a skull problem that he needed to be operated on. About 9 days before we were supposed to go back overseas. Bags were weighed and packed.
Wow.
And so the Lord just like stopped us in our tracks, and then his treatment needed
Many months.
We always say he was fine. They actually released us the next day from the hospital, but it was enough that the housing that we needed and to buying sheets and everything, it was like the Lord's hand in redirecting us. We were like starting from the ground up, and there was no date that we could go back overseas. And I think from the first time in my life, I actually didn't want to go overseas. So it all kind of, and Kevin was thinking a lot about the assemblies in America and how that works with missions. The whole thing was like a major storm in our lives because we thought we'd be overseas for 30 years, like my parents.
Yeah.
And kind of thought people that left after 2 or 3, 4 years were like a little bit weaker. So it was a humbling experience to I was having is it okay to want to stay in America, having grown up overseas and, the mission field?
And to justify to yourself that staying in America was what God wanted.
Right. Could he, at that point, I remember thinking, could he be that good to let me stay where I want to be in the suburbs? And how would we do that with ministry? Like, does he care about that for me? I think that was one thing.
Wow.
And at the same time, you were not talking about the overseas as much, right, as we were having to transition. And then because we were just trying to figure it all out, and COVID lockdowns overseas and vaccinations, the whole thing was very messy for us. And our elders at Lombard just said, we're going to make it easy for you guys. You're not going.
Oh my.
And then we were like, wait, what? We don't get a say in this?
The leadership of the church just said,
They
no.
just said, no, it's not the time for you. You just need to stay put here and figure out something to do here.
Wow.
So
But you guys were ready for that no.
yes,
It wasn't like
we were. It was a relief
Yeah.
to get the no.
It made sense along with everything else that you guys had been weighing.
But we hadn't really thought about Muslims in America. I think we had, that was just furlough, and that was living in the States, or, summers in the States, but not like looking around, what is God doing with evangelism in America? So,
And is there quite a large Muslim population where you're at in the suburbs?
We right around the same time, I went to a prayer meeting that has been faithfully being conducted at the assembly where we are for several years. And one of the speakers that was sharing at this prayer meeting, the Holy Spirit used this for me to all of a sudden start like, wow, he's right. He said, we're in a day and age when the nations are coming here and going back at the same time. This is like the world is very globalized in a way. And he gave some examples of just like how we see that, like with people going to Sweden, and then from Sweden they come here, and then from America they're back in West Africa, and just like he said, the missions is everywhere to everywhere, and we didn't see that in the same way as like all of a sudden we started seeing all these people that we were encountering on community college campus, at the supermarket. Just started noticing like, well, there are Muslims all over the place. Found out later
Buying up
that
the houses in the suburbs of Chicago and building mosques, and they're more and more everywhere.
we found
Yeah.
ourselves like thinking, wait, we've had all these experiences in the Middle East, and now there's people right here. I remember very early on I heard somebody speaking Arabic at a community college, and I just sat down and with him. I said, "You're speaking Arabic," and we just jumped into a conversation. Where are you from? And he's from Jordan. I was like, "This is crazy," and he actually almost brought me to tears. Feeling like I'm not in Jordan anymore, but I'm sitting here talking to a young man from Jordan. He's just talking about Islam, and we had this amazing conversation. It started about biology, actually. He was studying biology. I said, "Oh, I love biology. I study biology," and we got into it. And like after talking for an hour, I handed him. I had an Arabic English New Testament in my backpack, and he took it. I was so happy to get it. And then he gave me a hug, and he said the Arabic word for my. It sounds funny to us, but my darling or my beloved, he said Habibi, and it's this like term that you use for men in the Middle East. It moved me so much.
Oh my.
This guy, I gave him a hug. I've never seen him again since. I just thought like, and I kind of look around these college campuses, and there's all these Arabs and Pakistanis and Turks and Central
Unreached
Asia.
people
Yeah.
groups that are,
Unreached people groups in the city.
yeah. And landing, we always look
Suburbs.
up at the airplanes landing across Chicagoland and think like, here comes more, here comes more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Right,
to
like-
identify the tail.
What
Like,
countries they're
oh,
coming
yeah,
from.
Turkish Airlines, Emirati Airlines, okay. Etihad, oh, these are all coming from the Middle East, or you know,
And it can be viewed through a very threatening
yeah.
perspective, right? Like we don't want American culture to change or the public schools to feel different. And there's like two sides to it. So we feel that frustration too. But at the same time, it's like God's sovereign and they are living here now, or second, third generation.
Right.
The mission field is like getting closer and closer, too close for comfort in some ways.
Yeah.
We drive a minivan, and often at like intersections, especially on the big kind of road that runs through the suburbs, at intersections, if you look at the driver of a minivan, it's very frequently a woman wearing a full like head covering, or
They have
a
lots of
man with a big
kids.
beard. I'm like, yeah, you love minivans. Like we have a minivan. We're in with these.
I'm right there with them.
It can also be kind of jarring, kind of startling. I remember once getting in a taxi in Jordan, and the guy, as I get in, I look over at him. He's like got this big beard. It's dyed red because a lot of very religious men will dye their beards because they say that Muhammad, the prophet, dyed his beard red. And he had like the hat and the whole like robe and everything. And I was
Very
really
intimidating.
intimidated. Like this guy looks like the kind of person you should be afraid of. Like he's gonna, be aggressive towards me. And I was very nervous in the conversation. I'd been living in the Middle East for a couple of years, but just like this guy's about to go off on me. And I tried to sort of start a conversation with him. Didn't really go anywhere. And he just looked over at me. He said, "If you have something important to say to me, just tell me."
You were trying to share
I
some
was trying to,
parables
like,
or something.
connect where he was from to like some story that I could have a hook with. And he
You were
just-
trying to have a spiritual
yes,
conversation,
with a guy that I was very intimidated to even
and he could
approach.
sense that you were headed somewhere.
right.
So we
He said-
basically
he said,
said-
I'm more simple than that. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm
just
not
say-
religious.
Get to the point.
Just say it.
Yeah.
What is your message? He gave me a few minutes just to share a very simple gospel message with him. And he looked over at me. He said, "Thank you so much for telling me that."
What?
And he said, I'm not an educated man. I can't even really read. But what you just said is very significant, very meaningful to me. Thank you. I got his phone number. I never able to connect with him again. But it was like a reminder to me that appearances, and even this fact that I've thought about that guy several times, and like remembering not through the beard and through the robe and through the headpiece that is very common for more religious Muslims, that this man was made to know Christ, that he was made to delight in God. And all these things that he's wearing are actually not satisfy, and they're not going to bring him into a knowledge of the Lord.
That there is a very powerful idea to look at someone and say, this person, created in the image of God, was made to know God, to delight in God. Wow.
So we have to remind ourselves that when we are at parks in the suburbs and there's a group of Indians or Pakistanis or Bangladeshis that are dressed in a way that might make us kind of intimidated or
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Or we can feel like, well, we're, this Western culture, we've always been Christians and they've always been Muslims. That's just what they are. Like if they're from Pakistan, that's always what they've been.
Yeah.
But we were also pagan, like if you look in history, you look at Europe, if you look at, where America's origins, like we were pagans before and got Gentiles before the gospel came to us. And to remember that when you see people from other cultures and religions, like they just aren't believers yet.
Yeah. Is it difficult to engage? You said you find they're coming here, they're coming to our land. Yeah. So you're finding them. Is it difficult to engage? And what's the challenges there with just the...
What ways have you discovered to connect with them?
Yeah.
You would probably... he would always say in the beginning, like, well, it's actually the Muslims are really easy to talk to about anything spiritual. It's the like nominal, like no church background, like people that grew up Baptist, whatever. That's private, like it's politics and religion, right? That's separate. But Muslims, like culture and religion's all overlapping. So they no problem saying like, do you believe in God? That's very not awkward to bring up spiritual things at all.
See that? I think
we tell people that all the time. Just ask, are you a Muslim? You can say that. Oh, are you a Muslim? Tell me. Like,
and
they have no problem talking about that.
And you have done a fair amount of work at community colleges, right? That's a lot of people are coming to learn, to be educated. So tell us about that.
Yeah, we'd seen, we were, I think, just married, and there was some older guys that had set up Bible tables at three different community colleges, but they've since had to move on, mostly because of age. But one of our dear brothers had a closet full of different resources. Some of it really outdated, some of it just Bibles in different languages. It was helping him clear out stuff from his closet, and realized like maybe we should restart these Bible book tables. And so it was also right at the time when another brother from India actually was also feeling a burden for community college students, and called me up and said, what's going on at the community colleges? I said, we need to get together, and here's one idea. Here's something that some brothers had been doing before. And we said, well, let's try it again. So we were able to get space at one community college very close to our house and set out a table with some candy and some flags. I ordered a kit of flags from the nations on Amazon. And
stickers. College kids are really into stickers.
Right. You can put it on anything.
We didn't
Water
realize
bottles.
We learned that later, but
that was very surprising. Kids will stop college kids will stop for stickers.
Oh, wow.
So.
We started just talking to students at this table and realized there was some students that were just like, you ask them about anything spiritual and just blank, like nothing, no engagement, no interest, just what? And then they just keep walking. Like, okay. But then the next guy that comes up is a Muslim. He's like, what is this? Bibles? I've never seen a Bible or read a Bible. Then he'd say, but the Bible's been changed. It's been corrupted. And, but all of a sudden we're in a conversation. And they'll sit in there and talk to you. We'll talk about, foods from their culture and from their countries, their experience here as a maybe immigrant kid. And then they do want to actually talk about spiritual things. Often we'll get into some stories of what things they say, but we just started realizing as we sit at this table that it seems like the whole world is there at community college. People, not uncommon to say they've been here just a couple weeks and they're just getting registered for English class, down the hall, or their parents moved here when they were a little kid and they're first generation college students and they're, wanting to study everything. You know,
Yeah.
But
community college.
they're from countries that are tough to even get into in missions.
Looking at this map behind us, we've met students from
Tajikistan.
North Africa, Middle East, I mean, Central Asia, the whole 1040 window. I think nearly every country in the 1040 window we have met at these different community college tables. And part of that is just being in a major metropolitan area, which is like a global city. But also just the community college tends to attract students that are new, students that are trying to retool, students that have parents that have just moved here and kind of trying to get established. So it's been an amazing opportunity to engage those nations through the kids, through the students.
Years ago, there was a brother here in the United States who worked as an engineer with the U.S. Corps of Engineers. At one point in his career, they sent him to Japan for a project. What started as a work assignment quickly became something much more. He fell in love with the people, with the culture, with a country he had never known before. But even more than that, God placed a deep burden on his heart for the souls of the Japanese people. Eventually, his assignment ended and the Corps brought him back to the US, but something had changed. Japan never really left his heart, and before long, the Lord began to stir him again to return to Japan, not as an engineer, but as a servant of the gospel. His local assembly commended him, and he returned to Japan as a missionary. He served there faithfully for many years, and when the time came to think about the latter years of his life, he asked himself the same question he had always asked: where can I continue to reach the Japanese people? His answer was Hawaii, home to the largest Japanese population in the US at that time. So he moved back, bought a small condo, and kept doing what he had always done: loving the Japanese people, building relationships with them, and pointing them to Christ. Nearly at the end of his life, he wanted his ministry to continue even after he was gone. He didn't have much to leave, but he left what he did to CMML. What he never could have imagined was this: that little condo he bought years earlier had grown in value, worth over $1 million at the time of his passing. And suddenly, his quiet faithfulness became a blessing that would fund gospel work far beyond his lifetime. Praise the Lord for a faithful servant whose love for an unreached people group touched lives during his years on earth, and it continues to do so even now as others carry on the work through the fruit of his good stewardship. Philippians 4:19, "But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus." God is still the great provider. The question is never whether he will provide, but how he might choose to use us, just like this brother. He delights in using his people to supply the needs of his servants. May we be found faithful in prayer, generous in giving, and ready to serve in his mission wherever he sends us.
Do they feel like they have some immediate commonality with you when they find out you spent time over there? Or like maybe not in their home country, but at least in their culture?
Depends on the kid, probably.
Yeah, it depends on where they're from. But sometimes I'll throw an Arabic word out, and it'll make heads turn. Yeah. But there's also just several students have said, "Oh, there's a Muslim club on campus, but like we don't see a lot of." At one college in particular, up until last year, there was no Christian presence on campus.
Just Muslim clubs.
Just two Islamic clubs and no Christian club.
Wow. And
they kind of like, well, this is great. There's people at least promoting like religious things. We'd rather see this than see promotion of LGBTQ and sexual revolution things. I heard many students say things like that. This is so much better. They don't know what's in it, but they're just like, religion is better than that.
Wow.
And you've had people over, you had some of the students to your house for holidays even, right? And that makes quite an impact.
Yeah, that was
It was a program of kids that would come over. The program has since ended, but they would come for 9 months or 10 months from all different countries. And then we kind of divided them up among different families in our chapel. And Other churches would take 1 or 2 kids and then have them over for major, like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, and then we would always try to use those times in our home as have them read the Christmas story before we eat, or yeah, it's been really neat because most international students don't have any crossover where they're in an American home. So that's been a neat opportunity for them to be like, well, what's it like American house? If you're an international kid, you might just be living in an apartment and then being on campus.
And that's a pretty easy ministry that even a person who doesn't know the culture can do, right?
Right.
Open their
No,
home,
you don't need to know anything.
invite people to their table, serve their own food.
This one guy last year at Easter, we had a couple guys over for Easter dinner. And as he walks in the door, like he's walking there, he said, I have no idea what Easter is about. I have no idea. Like, you have to tell me everything. Okay. You're right.
Wide open door.
Sit down.
Tell me everything about Easter.
Take a slice of ham. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably the one thing we do say
Yeah.
to people that have them over is
Yes.
no pork.
Avoid the pork.
No pork.
Other than that, yeah.
And tell them there's no pork, and then they'll feel comfortable. Otherwise, they might not say, but they'll be nervous
Yeah.
to come over.
Yes.
Wow.
So from the college campus ministry, you've had new ministry ideas that have taken off. Tell us about those, some of the other things that you've done.
I think one of the things we noticed is, especially where we would set up on these campuses, is that people were often coming to the campus looking for English class. They'd heard you can get English classes, sometimes free, and the family would send one person to go find out about English classes and then come back to us. So it was great to be able to meet people that are from Morocco. We met a family from Morocco. The whole family was there looking to get into English class, and they took an Arabic New Testament, which was so neat, such a privilege to be able to hand them that. And then say, and the English class registration is just down the hall. But we said, what would be a good way to actually start engaging as an assembly, as a church body, some of the contacts that we're making. So, well, it was actually not our idea, but somebody had tried to link the things that we were sharing and say, what about having English conversation at the chapel?
At the church
What if you
building.
just started
Yeah.
inviting people to come and have conversation
Like
practice?
one-on-one practice, not like teaching a class. Like nobody has much experience in that.
Yeah.
My dad and Kevin and another man just kind of organized people from the chapel that were willing, grandmothers, all different ages, that are just willing to sit with whoever comes, women to women, men to men,
Wow.
and just talk.
If you
in English.
If you speak English and you're willing to be a friend to an immigrant who's wanting to learn, this is for you. And it can open such amazing doors into their life. It can open such amazing conversation into their...
So it's literally just having a conversation, maybe teaching them a word they don't understand kind of thing.
Having them practice whatever they know.
Okay.
And then you guys have kind of just started adding in like a little Bible story in English first, right? And then they split up into their groups.
Okay.
So they hear something in English, and they're fine with having religious text, even in language study, typically, because they're all about that kind of
And
using the Quran, using the Bible. So they're in a church, and we use the Bible, and
Right.
And they
Yeah.
come for the opportunity to improve their conversational level of English. Wow.
it hasn't been a lot of people. It's been a small group, but it's also just been really good for the chapel to have
Yes.
exposure.
All
Yes.
these covered ladies with headscarves coming Thursday nights into the building, right? And usually it's just Sunday school and prayer meetings, and then here they are, they have tea with them in the gym or in a classroom. And
That's
it's
what's
been-
really cool about this. Many things, but one thing is that I had told someone that we were going to be interviewing you two, and in our local community, and that you were ministering to Muslims in Chicago, and they immediately were interested and said, can you ask them while you're there for some practical tips of how to connect in we live in a small town of 26,000, but we do have a mosque in our
Oh, wow.
in our community, and so just wanted fresh ideas and just simple practical things to do, and that is such a simple practical one of just
Advertise at the public library. Like we just made a little flyer that just said free English conversation, snacks, tea, free, free, free.
Right.
And, right. And if it's just conversation, people often don't have a friend to practice with.
yeah.
They might live in America and they're taking a class, but they don't have any way to like practice very well
Yeah.
or be corrected in their English. And so we're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But you're doing it. That's the big takeaway. So, Amy, you mentioned something before we got on here, something that you've been doing lately. What is with women? What's your ministry look like?
Yeah. So I think maybe 5 years ago, kind of right when we decided to stay in the States, we started working with another couple that have been working with Muslims for 18 years in the Chicagoland area. And they had discovered that there were Turkish people that loved talking about religious dialogue. And they had become friends with many of them. And we were introduced to them. And I could speak Turkish with them. And they were eager to do basically like comparative, like what does the Quran say? They explained to us what the Quran says about Adam and Eve and what the Quran says about Abraham. And then they would want to know, well, what does the Bible say about Adam and Eve? Or what is atonement? Or what is sin? Or what is judgment? All these, let's compare and talk. So the men have started a couple different groups where they meet monthly. And we have two women's groups that we do. And theirs meet in the church or in the Islamic Cultural Center. The women's groups meet in homes. So it's 4 Muslim ladies and 4 Christian ladies. We meet once a month, sort of, if we can arrange it. And we make a lot of food and we drink tea and we read this like book that keeps us kind of on track that is written by a Muslim and a Christian together.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it's very different than anything I've ever done, but it forces you to like talk about like, okay, let's talk about Muhammad.
Brings
Okay,
up
let's talk
subjects.
about, the prophets and we have ground rules where we don't get offended. Like we have to say like, okay, we're not going to be offended. No question is going to be rude. And I'm the only one with experience with Muslims. The other ladies are from different churches in Chicagoland that were quite nervous when I asked them, or when they were asked. They were like, I'm going to say something. I'm going to offend them. I have no connection with Muslims. But it's been really wonderful with these ladies. And we've shared over and over the gospel with them. And the Lord's going to use it in their life somehow. There hasn't been like anyone turning to Christ yet, but we just know we're some link in their lives because they want to know about it, even if it's just comparative for now.
Yes.
So that's been an amazing open door.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And again, in your home, just opening your home is such a essential part of this. So college ministry, you've had those conversation, church conversation, this comparative religion study, basically. Are there any other things that you've done while soccer club?
Yeah.
Tell us about
So
that.
more of a seasonal outreach opportunity.
Especially here in the Midwest. It has to be
Midwest,
seasonal.
yeah. And we don't ever always know when that season's going to be. A colleague, a friend of mine, we met for lunch several years ago, and he said that his wife was a school teacher, public school teacher, in an area that was predominantly Arab immigrants, especially from Yemen. And she had a class, she had a 5th grade teacher. She had a class of students, and many of them didn't speak English because they were so new. And she could speak Arabic. She actually had lived in the Middle East for a while. And she was trying to brainstorm with them what they could do over the summer. And they had all these things that they wanted to do, but their parents don't have transportation, or they don't have the means to do soccer clubs or, any kind of clubs. Yeah. And so they said, well, what if we just tried a little soccer clinic for the neighborhood boys? And they invited us to be a part of this. And
nobody has like soccer background.
No.
Just
I
I was just going to
like,
ask,
he's
what's
not a
the
soccer
experience
player.
level? Where's
like
the passion?
soccer. I need to look up some.
Wait,
What are the
California?
rules?
No, he just bought a bunch of, or we used
Yeah.
a bunch of soccer balls,
Got
bought
some
two
balls,
goals,
some goals,
foldable, you know,
and
showed up.
a couple cases of drink boxes and some chips, and invited all these kids from their class, and then all the neighborhood kids made some flyers, and some boys came. This was 3 summers ago. Some boys came, and we had some great opportunities to play soccer. And on the sidelines, chatting with some of them was just like, hey, you know,
And we
what do you believe?
recruited some real like college soccer players from Wheaton College.
Okay.
We just found a couple from Christian colleges in the area.
Just try to bring young people out. Like, hey, we're gonna play soccer with kids, and this is more significant than you might think because these kids actually really not interacted with Christians before. Often they think that Christians don't like them. And so they already come with this bias of thinking like, well, we're not really welcome here, so let's just kind of keep to ourselves.
Wow.
And just even having a bunch of Christians come and play soccer with them, get to know their lives a little bit, do something for them. Several parents who are much harder to interact with would thank us after, like, oh, this is so sweet of you guys. Thank you.
And then they started adding in acting out a parable during the break. So they'd have all the boys sit down, hand out juice boxes, and
You can't, if you want a juice box, you have to just sit.
watch us. And Kevin would bring like a few
Done.
props and get the other
A
guys
dramatized version.
just quickly dramatize. He would do a
were
little bit of
spellbound.
Arabic, a little bit of English.
They would be spellbound. They's like, what are they talking about?
Wow.
Sometimes they're like, is this a spectacle? Like, what is this? But they
And
listen.
only parables is what you
Yeah,
did.
we just
Jesus'
stuck to
different
Jesus' parables, act them out, and they often end with this hook. They end with this kind of, and what will you do? This like, we intentionally would leave the story as Jesus would leave it, kind of
Yes.
as a
You got to wrestle with the
I
implications.
got to wrestle with it.
Yeah.
And so then we would go back to playing soccer, and we'd notice this. Some of them have these strange reactions to these stories. You know, one guy, he grabbed a prop. One of the props we used was a carpet. He grabbed it right after we finished the snack. He grabbed it. He started actually doing his Islamic prayers on this rug in the middle of the park, which was a very odd thing to see. But the story was about prayer. The story was about, does God answer our prayer because we cry out to him or because we are righteous in our own? It's the story of the Pharisee and the tax collector. He was obviously very
It did something to
moved
him.
by it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And his friends were like, what are you doing? So we have to pray, you know, like kind of this story.
It kind of reminds me of the moment when you were like, I need to do more. I
Yeah.
need to do more. And then eventually come into the end of yourself. Wow.
And what's really neat about that is there's a church that we were partnering with just right across the street. And they had some volunteers come to this particular time. And the pastor of that church actually was chatting with him. And he said, you know, the kid said to the pastor, why don't you read the Quran? You should be reading the Quran. He said, well, I've read some of the Quran. Have you ever read the Bible? The kid was kind of like, oh, right. Okay, I can read the Bible. And he said, well, if your parents allow you, you can read the Bible, or you wait until you're of age and you can read the Bible. And the kid was kind of like, oh, the Bible. I texted his mom the next week and said, like, will Muhammad come to the soccer clinic? And she wrote, he's never coming again.
Ooh.
I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they're kind of a skittish community, but even just recognizing that we're sowing seeds into these kids' lives and doing it with with other American Christians, want them to be very involved. This is their neighborhood and this is their burden. And these
And we
kids are
have
going
these
to grow
freedoms in America to do that, even if it is a closed door after a little bit, you know, in this boy's life, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, his parents put the brakes on it, but he heard the story and he saw the love of Christians that threw a soccer clinic for him, gave them free snacks and like spent a summer afternoon helping him out. And
I think so often we overcomplicate, we overthink, and we paralyze ourselves in like, I just love that you thought there's a need here, meet that need, and share these parables, and you have no idea where that could go, and no idea what the Lord will do with that. And
Yeah, he brings the fruit.
yeah, like you said, show up. We just show up and do it, and let the Lord do the rest. So you have had a wealth of ideas and experiences in doing this. And you mentioned you've brought some young people in for the soccer clubs. Have you ever thought about mentoring young people to do this type of ministry?
Like Christian young people
Yeah.
that, hey, we've got all this experience.
Right. Here's how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm constantly thinking about the tables that we do and the events that we're involved in, and like, how do we bring along younger people into this? How do we start giving them some exposure to this? And like, hey, come and let's do this together. Like, watch this. We're gonna model this, and we're gonna also give you opportunities to do this. And I think at the tables especially,
Try to have younger
try to
people.
have young people come and say, they'll often say like, I don't know what, I have a Muslim classmate, I don't know what to say. So I'm like, well, let's just sit at the table, and they're going to come and ask questions. So here's what that could look like.
Yeah.
You know, two guys came to one of our tables. We had actually two students there at the same time. Two guys came to the table. They were speaking Arabic, and
Two Christian students and then two.
yeah, there were two
Okay.
believers who were at the table, and then these two Muslim guys come to the table, and they're sort of arguing about whether or not you're allowed to read the Bible. And I said, no. I spoke to them first in Arabic, but then to engage the other students. You're allowed to read the Bible. You know, you're here at college, you read books. This is an opportunity for you to see what Christians believe and understand your own friends and neighbors. Would you like one? And one guy is like, I'm out of here. He left. And the other guy stuck around, and he said, well, I would read it, but it's been corrupted. And it's to show these other students, that's probably the number one objection that Muslims have to reading the Bible.
The Bible has been corrupted.
Yeah. And sometimes
That's why the Quran came to replace it. They would leave.
And it's
So-
been corrupted because we have a translation of a translation of a
Yeah.
translation.
oh, there's
Things
so
were
many
put
things,
in.
so many languages. It's been over time, you know, the church has meddled with it and
Right.
changed it. to
And
fit their
finally,
own-
God sent the Quran, and that's final. So they trust that, and the rest they can't.
Okay.
Got it.
So for students to see, does not have to be an overly complicated conversation, or this is not just like some bomb that you're gonna have to. Oh, now actually, it hasn't been changed. Listen, guys,
You just
the
say it
Bible's
hasn't.
not been changed.
Yeah.
We can trust that God preserves His word,
Mm-hmm.
and if we believe God is all powerful and all good and all holy, and He speaks to us through His word. He's not gonna just confuse us by changing it all every century.
Yeah.
And we have manuscripts, and
Yeah,
you just
and it depends.
challenge them to like
Yes.
look into it.
Yep.
They're in museums. You can,
And this man that came to the table, Abdullah, a young guy, student, he said he'd never heard somebody actually say it hadn't been changed.
That's all he
It's like,
needed to
really?
hear.
Yeah, you don't think it's been changed? No, it hasn't. Have you ever wanted to read it? He said, well, I mean, you've convinced me now. Maybe I should just read it. So he took a Gospel of Luke and went on his way that day. And that was powerful, I think, for two big reasons. Of course, just saying it hasn't been changed. We can trust in God's faithfulness, that His word is trustworthy. Let's see what it says. And then just to have that said in the presence of students who will certainly have that conversation
Yes.
Yeah.
with their classmates, even maybe the next day, who are going to say, your Bible's been changed.
Wow.
So for our listeners who may have an early experience like you did with negative preconceived notions, whether it be 9/11, bullying, whatever that may be, but hasn't made it to where you two are today, what kind of advice would you give them for overcoming those misconceptions or those fears of how to reach Muslims? What practical advice would you give someone in that?
Well, I mean, I'll just speak for with women. I always say, well, if you see a lady with a headscarf at a grocery store, don't be worried about saying like, I love your headscarf, or like, where are you from? Do you speak another language? Like they will maybe be surprised you're talking to them because Americans are typically nervous. The headscarf is kind of a barrier. But you can very easily even say, like, I'd love to have you over. Like, that's not awkward for them.
And when you
either.
say you're thinking about women saying this to this
Yes,
woman,
to
not men.
right. No, to
Okay.
women that see other women
Yeah.
at grocery stores, or more and more people have. One woman told me this week that her daughter has Muslim friends from public school. And so she's interacting with those moms. Some are secular Muslims, don't wear the headscarf, and some are more conservative. And she's just been asking, like, what do I do with them? Like, how do I interact with them? And I just said, like, you can be more bold than you think, because they're not going to be offended like you might think. And they really do want to be, like, see your house. Like, they want to see.
There's some curiosity
yes,
there.
there is, right? They only know their own world and their own relatives, and just say, like, have the girl, the two kids play in your backyard and have her over for lemonade, and talk with her. Like, those small steps, then you can say, like, I don't know anything about Islam. Like, when did you start wearing the headscarf? Or just bringing up those kind of spiritual things are not they're not awkward for them. And I've just been trying to remind people of that.
That's great advice. Just
Shows
start
them
the
honor.
conversation. How about you?
I would think asking good questions, and even sometimes going right to a theological question, is not wrong for Muslims. Like, what book do you read? We read the Bible. What do you read? What is the Quran? What is that? Kind of playing like a sort of how would you summarize that, or how would you what value is it in your life? That kind of thing. But also just the kind of questions that we engage young people with at the school is like, do you speak another language?
Yeah, we say that a lot.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people are like, have been here for 30,
Right.
40
Where are you
years.
from?
I'm American
From
Muslim.
Chicago.
Yeah.
But to
your
ask,
question?
do you guys, did you grow up speaking another language? Like, if you can tell, you can kind of ask, and then that can open a, like, yeah, I speak Farsi at home, or I speak Urdu, or yeah.
That's so interesting, because in America and maybe it's a Western thing, we are so afraid of putting people in making them feel awkward, that we're hesitant. We lack that boldness, because what if they reject this? What if they don't appreciate it? What if, I'm intruding into their space? But you're telling us, no, Muslims are very welcoming of that, like, exchange, and are not going to be put off, and as immigrants might feel like it's probably affection, like love, like somebody cared enough to say hi to me.
Yeah.
This past summer, we wanted to give young people some exposure to world religions, and thought, what if we brainstormed with some others, thinking, how would we get young people just to even interface?
Like in the assemblies of Chicagoland, kind of, is our...
Yeah, so we came up with an idea to have a group of students go and visit a Hindu temple, a Buddhist temple, and a mosque, and a community center. And we actually got to go and visit a mosque that's recently built in our area. And they were very honored by our visit. Even the imam, who's a younger guy, these two imams, that's the leader of a mosque, is called an imam. They, both in their 30s, were very welcoming to us. They took us around the mosque, showed us a tour, took a long time for question and answer. And then even one of them said, well, why don't you come and watch our prayer time? So they let the men and the boys and in the back, and the ladies upstairs. And he, from the front of the mosque, said, we just wanted to welcome our Christian friends.
From Lombard Gospel
Chapel. And if you see them, like, say hello to them. And all of these men came up to us and were shaking our hands. And I think it was very profound for the young people. It was high school seniors and early college students, mostly in that age range, who'd never been into a mosque, never really chatted with a Muslim. And then here they have all these guys coming in, saying hello, and sort of opening the door for a lowering of the barrier for a friendship.
Yes.
So even if your town only has 26,000, like perhaps a small group of you from your chapel could visit
So we want to visit.
and just say, we just want a tour. We'd love to visit. We are a church in this town. We'd love Muslims. We'd love to like see what you guys do or learn what kind of events you have. And we'd love for you to come tour our building too, or hear about how we worship. And just to have that, I mean, I'm sure they've probably never had Christians hardly
Right.
come into the building, you know.
Right.
That's one idea as well.
Yeah.
Genuine interest seems to be a huge part of what you're saying. As long as you show, which is Jesus a perfect example, as we see in Scripture, he's always showing a genuine interest in whoever he was speaking with. And I think similar to what you were saying, Joel, there's the unknown that people often are, with different cultures or different religions, because we don't understand their religion or don't understand their culture, we just avoid contact at all because we just don't know what to do. We're going to say something wrong. We're going to offend somebody. If I just smile and, nod, I'm being friendly. But I love that encouragement to just engage, show them that you're interested, that you want to know more about them. They're human, just like we want to be known. We want to be known, and that's from the divine. We want to be known by our Savior. So that is such great practical encouragement.
Yeah. And to our audience, I would say, in a previous episode, we talked about the power of an open heart, an open table, an open home. And this is, in my mind, kicking it up a notch. It's like we're not just opening our table. We're not just opening our home. We're opening our heart to somebody that does not share my cultural values, somebody who actually my culture might consider a potential enemy, like somebody who could do me harm. And so, which as Christians should take us back to the words of Jesus, love your enemies. So that's just, wow. So grateful
Yes.
for our conversation today and for the stories that you've shared.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for the conversation. And to all of you listening, we always want to give some sort of practical, challenge. And to what Joel was saying, we would challenge you to, after you listen to this, think of a Muslim in your community, or if you have an Islamic center, we have an Islamic center or a mosque, figure out a way to connect. Or as Amy was saying, if you see someone in the store, start a conversation. Just do that little step and see what comes of it. And we would love to hear from you and to hear what comes of that. Because as long as you do it, if you take that step, the Lord's going to honor that and do something extraordinary with it. Joel, how can people tell us about their experiences?
Oh, we are so excited to hear from you. Write to us, please. podcast@cmml.us. Send us a brief line. Tell us a story of the attempt you made and what came of it. And we'd love to pray with you and for you and to see what God will do.
Yes. And in the meantime, please keep coming back and listening to this podcast. We're so grateful to have you here. And until next time, this is To the Ends of the Earth, a CMML podcast.